We spend so much time wondering what makes someone think about us. We replay conversations, reanalyze texts, and question every micro expression. But here's the truth. A man doesn't think about you nonstop because you're perfect. He thinks about you nonstop because you activate something real inside him. And there are three magic words that do that. Not manipulative, not a trick, but a doorway. Before I tell you what they are, I want you to understand why they work. Men remember the women who wake something up in them. A sense of purpose, a sense of admiration, a sense of possibility. When you speak to that part of him, you don't just grab his attention, you become unforgettable. So here they are, the three words, I appreciate you. Simple, yes. But don't let simplicity fool you. These words do what endless overthinking never could. They tell a man, I see you, I value what you bring, you matter. And when a man feels that authentically, he will replay that moment over and over again. Because appreciation is rare. Most people want something from him. You're offering something to him. Say it when he shows effort. Say it when he opens up. Say it when he tries, even imperfectly. Say it in a way that isn't performative, but honest. And let me be clear, you're not saying it to earn his love. You're saying it because you are a woman of high value, high awareness, and high gratitude. Because you understand that relationships aren't built from pressure or fear, they're built from recognition. When you say, I appreciate you, you're not just warming his heart, you're elevating the standard for how you expect to be treated too. Because appreciation is not worship, it's acknowledgement, and someone who is acknowledged naturally wants to step up. And that's why these words are magic. They don't just make him think about you, they make him think about who he becomes when he's with you. And that, more than beauty, more than charm, more than clever lines, is what creates devotion. Not because you're trying to trigger him, but because you've tapped into the truth. People never forget the person who made them feel like their best self. So go out there with purpose, speak with intention, choose appreciation over validation seeking, and watch how effortlessly he gravitates toward you. Not because he has to, but because his soul recognizes home when it finds it. Emotional association is the invisible thread that binds two people long before commitment, labels, or declarations ever enter the equation. It's the subtle force that makes him think of you when he wakes up, when he's driving, when he's in the middle of his day doing something completely unrelated to you. It's not created through pressure, intensity, or constant contact. It's created by the feelings you evoke in him when you're together and the imprint those emotions leave behind. Think of emotional association as the internal echo a person feels after an experience. We often assume people remember our words, but what they truly remember is how they felt in our presence. A man may forget the details of a conversation, but he won't forget that slight warmth in his chest when you smiled at him, or the calm that washed over him when you listened without judgment, or the pride he felt when you acknowledged something he did with sincerity. These emotional imprints become anchors, places his mind returns to when he's searching for comfort, validation, motivation, or connection. The fascinating thing is that emotional association is not about being overly positive, perfect, or endlessly pleasant. It's about authenticity layered with intention. A genuine emotional association is created when you show up as your whole self, warm, grounded, expressive, self-aware, and allow him to see not only the polished parts, but the human ones. When you respond with presence instead of pretense, you make the moment memorable. When you speak with sincerity instead of scripts, you become magnetic. When you allow space for his thoughts, his flaws, and his layers, you become someone he feels safe being real with, and that stays with him. Why does this matter so deeply? Because in a world full of distractions, emotional association cuts through the noise. Anyone can be attractive, interesting, or fun for a moment, but emotional impact is rare. Most interactions people have are transactional, superficial, or rushed. When he experiences someone who adds meaning, clarity, or inspiration to his emotional world, she stands out, not because she tried hard, but because she was intentional about creating depth, not just excitement. When you speak certain words that express appreciation, admiration, curiosity, or acknowledgement, you create a positive emotional cue that links back to you. Human beings are wired to revisit feelings that made them feel valued or understood. So when you say something that taps into his deeper needs, to feel competent, desired, respected, or seen, you activate a powerful neurological response. It's not manipulation, it's connection. It's the simple truth that we are drawn to the people who make us feel good in meaningful ways. What makes emotional association powerful is that it extends beyond the moment. Let's say he's facing a tough day. He remembers the way you told him you appreciated something he thought no one noticed. If he's doubting himself, he recalls the confidence he felt when you believed in him. If he's excited about something, he thinks about how you're the one person who listens with genuine interest. These emotional flashpoints create a silent pull. They form a loop in his mind. She gets me. She sees me. I feel good with her. I want more of that. But emotional association isn't just about making him think of you. It's about raising his emotional standard. Once a man experiences that kind of connection with you, he subconsciously compares every other interaction to it. He starts recognizing that the energy you bring is rare, and that rarity becomes value. You're not chasing him, his own mind is drawing him back to you. Emotional association isn't loud, dramatic, or fast. It's subtle, consistent, and deeply felt. It's built in the quiet moments, the thoughtful words, the intentional presence, and the emotional clarity you bring into his life. And when you master this, you don't just linger in his thoughts, you shape them. Psychological pull is what makes someone lean in without being asked, wonder about you without prompting, and invest in you without pressure. It's an internal curiosity you awaken in him, a gravitational shift where he starts paying attention to the things you say, the way you move, and the energy you bring into his life. This pull isn't created through games or manipulation, it's created through a deeper understanding of what drives human connection. At its core, psychological pull is about engaging the deeper layers of his mind, the ones responsible for attraction, admiration, and attachment. When you tap into those layers, you become someone he naturally wants to pursue. One of the reasons psychological pull is so powerful is because it operates beneath the surface. Most interactions happen at a surface level. Small talk, polite exchanges, predictable compliments, familiar patterns. Nothing about those moments sticks. But when you speak to a man in a way that touches his emotional needs, his need to feel competent, admired, understood, or valued, you bypass the surface and speak directly to the part of him that rarely gets nurtured. Everyone wants to feel significant, especially men who often move through life feeling like expectations are placed on them without acknowledgement of their inner world. When you provide understanding instead of judgment, curiosity instead of assumption, and appreciation instead of expectation, you awaken his desire to be closer to you. Psychological pull deepens when you show a combination of warmth and self-assurance. Warmth makes him feel welcome, while self-assurance makes him respect you. Most people lean too far into one or the other, either overly warm and accommodating, which comes across as needy, or overly independent and detached, which creates emotional distance. When you embody both, you send a powerful signal. I'm open to connection, but I don't need validation. This balance is incredibly attractive because it creates tension, not the unhealthy kind, but the kind that makes him want to earn more of your attention. He feels invited, but not entitled, interested, but not guaranteed. Part of psychological pull comes from the way you communicate. When you express your thoughts with clarity, intention, and emotional intelligence, you stand out instantly. Many conversations are filled with vague statements, surface-level responses, or emotional reactivity. But when you communicate with grounded presence, when you articulate what you feel without drama, when you express boundaries without hostility, when you share affection without insecurity, you create an emotional environment he doesn't want to leave. You become the person he wants to talk to at the end of a long day because you bring connection, not chaos. Another key element of psychological pull is the power of selective vulnerability. This doesn't mean oversharing or expressing every insecurity. You don't create pull by spilling everything. You create pull by letting him see glimpses of your inner world that are real and meaningful. When you share a story from your past that shaped you, or a dream you're pursuing, or a belief you stand for, you invite him into a deeper understanding of who you are. That invitation, when done thoughtfully, makes him want more. Men bond through purpose, clarity, and admiration. When he sees your depth, he becomes invested in discovering all the layers. Psychological pull also thrives on unpredictability, not in the sense of being erratic or confusing, but in the sense of being multidimensional. When you show that you can be playful and wise, confident and soft, strong and nurturing, you disrupt the monotony of what he's used to. Humans are wired to be drawn to complexity, not chaos, but richness. When your presence carries a blend of grace, humor, fire, and gentleness, you leave a lasting impression. You become emotionally textured, and textured people are unforgettable. At the heart of psychological pull is this truth: attraction isn't maintained through effort alone. It's maintained through emotional stimulation. The more a man feels mentally engaged, emotionally understood, and psychologically intrigued by you, the more he thinks about you, effortlessly, consistently, and often. Strategic vulnerability is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful elements of connection. Many people confuse vulnerability with oversharing, emotional dumping, or exposing every wound in the hope that it will create intimacy. But true vulnerability isn't about unloading every detail of your past or revealing pain as a way of attracting sympathy. It's the intentional, thoughtful sharing of who you are in a way that invites closeness without sacrificing dignity or boundaries. It's letting someone see just enough of your truth that they feel honored, not burdened by the access. What makes strategic vulnerability so captivating is the balance it holds. You are not hiding behind a perfect image, nor are you crumbling into someone's arms hoping they'll fix you. Instead, you exist in the middle ground, open enough to be real, grounded enough to be secure. This kind of openness awakens something in a man that is rarely touched: the desire to protect, to honor, to step up, and to be emotionally invested. You're no longer just a beautiful face or an interesting conversation. You become someone he feels personally connected to, someone whose feelings matter to him. Strategic vulnerability works because it signals strength, not weakness. It shows that you trust yourself enough to reveal parts of who you are. You're not afraid of being seen. You're not afraid of connection. At the same time, you're not handing over your emotional world recklessly. You're choosing moments that deepen the bond instead of destabilizing it. This balance makes you magnetic. It shows maturity, emotional intelligence, and confidence in your own story. When you practice strategic vulnerability, you share pieces of yourself that carry meaning. A challenge you overcame, a value you stand by, a fear you're working through, a dream you're building toward. These moments of truth create emotional resonance. They tell him, there's more to me than what meets the eye. Men are drawn to depth, even if they don't always articulate it. When you reveal parts of your inner world, you give him a chance to feel closeness with you, and closeness is what fuels emotional attachment. One of the reasons strategic vulnerability is so effective is because it creates contrast. When you're normally composed, confident, and self-sufficient, the moments where you soften or reveal something personal land with greater emotional weight. It's the contrast that makes the moment memorable. If you're vulnerable all the time, it loses meaning. But when you reveal something heartfelt at the right time, it hits him in a deeper place. It makes him feel trusted, chosen, and significant because you didn't have to share it. You chose to. Another important aspect of strategic vulnerability is your ability to express feelings without surrendering your self-respect. You can say, I value you, without sounding dependent. You can say, I was hurt by that, without being accusatory. You can express desire without appearing desperate. This kind of emotional articulation is rare. It shows a man that you know your worth, even when you're being honest about your feelings. That combination of softness and strength leaves a lasting mark. Strategic vulnerability also creates psychological safety, a space where he feels able to express himself as well. When you model healthy openness, you give him permission to open up in return, even if he's not used to doing so. Men often struggle to share their deeper emotions because they fear judgment or misunderstanding. When you show that you can hold space for your own truth with grace, you signal that you can hold space for his as well. This builds trust, and trust builds attachment. Most importantly, strategic vulnerability pulls him closer because it shows him that intimacy with you is both possible and valuable. You're not a fortress he can't access, nor are you a storm he has to calm. You're an emotionally aware woman who knows how to let someone in without losing herself in the process. And that kind of connection, the kind that feels balanced, meaningful, and emotionally safe, is the kind that stays in his mind long after the moment has passed. Identity activation is the silent force that makes a man not just attracted to you, but inspired because of you. It's the experience of becoming a better, more elevated version of himself in your presence, more confident, more purposeful, more seen. When a man feels that who he is around you aligns with the man he wants to be, he doesn't just enjoy your company, he feels called toward it. This is the heart of identity activation, awakening the parts of him that feel powerful, capable, valued, and meaningful. In most relationships or interactions, people connect at the level of circumstance, what someone does, what they have, what they can offer. But identity activation reaches beyond behavior and taps into the core of who someone aspires to be. Every man carries an internal blueprint of the man he hopes he can become. For some, it's the protector. For others, the achiever, the provider, the dreamer, the leader, the creator. When he encounters a woman who naturally aligns with that blueprint because she speaks to his strengths, acknowledges his growth, and celebrates his potential, she becomes unforgettable to him. Identity activation happens through the energy you bring, not just the words you say. When you carry yourself with purpose, he feels compelled to rise to match it. When you hold boundaries with grace, he feels inspired to show up with integrity. When you appreciate his efforts, not just the outcomes, he feels motivated to keep improving. It's not about making him feel like he's already perfect. It's about making him feel like he's progressing, evolving, and expanding. Men are deeply driven by progress, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When he associates that growth with you, he naturally attaches to you. One of the most potent forms of identity activation is when you acknowledge his character instead of just his actions. Compliments like, "you're handsome," or "you're fun," are pleasant, but they don't penetrate deeply. But when you say things like, "I admire your consistency," or "I love how you take initiative," you're not praising what he did, you're honoring who he is. You're reinforcing his internal identity. And humans cling tightly to the people who reflect the best parts of them. Identity activation also works through emotional alignment. When you behave in a way that mirrors the values he holds, you become someone he sees as part of his future, not just his present. If he values ambition and you pursue your goals with passion, he respects you. If he values loyalty and you communicate with honesty, he trusts you. If he values emotional intelligence and you handle conflict with clarity and calm, he feels safe with you. It isn't about changing yourself to match him. It's about being so firmly rooted in your values that he recognizes you as someone who elevates his. Another essential element of identity activation is the power of expectation, healthy, respectful expectation. When you expect him to rise to a higher standard, not through criticism, but through the way you carry yourself, you challenge him to step into his highest self. Men respond powerfully to standards when they are presented with warmth rather than pressure. When he senses that you believe in his potential, that you see his greatness, even if he hasn't fully stepped into it yet, he begins to believe it too, and that belief becomes a driving force that ties him to you. Identity activation doesn't require you to guide him, fix him, or shape him. It happens naturally when your presence calls out the best in him simply because you yourself are operating from a place of strength, clarity, and purpose. When you walk in your own identity, when your confidence is quiet and grounded, when your kindness has backbone, when your love has discernment, you inspire him to do the same. This is why a man will think about you nonstop, because you don't just make him feel good. You make him feel like a better man. And once a man associates you with the most empowered version of himself, his mind returns to you instinctively, consistently, and with a sense of reverence he can't ignore.